Hey, Grampian Nation. At the Grampian, we love our veterans. And today we're bringing to you a special guy. He's a United States Marine Corps Infantry Combat veteran. He's seen a lot, done a lot, and he's got stories to tell. Stand by.
In 2013, I coined the name Grampian, and I gave it to your host, Jim Tracy.
Grampian Nation, here we are. We're going to have a chat with Dr. Grunt, Andrew Wittman. And I don't know how else to say this, so I'm going to be right out there. Welcome to the show, buddy. I got to tell you, there's a lot of nicknames for Marines, but Doctor usually isn't one of them.
Right. Well, I got my doctorate in eating crayons. I'm very colorful in the crayon eating.
Well, welcome to the Grampian. We're so thrilled to have you.
Thanks for being here, man. I'm super pumped to be in your space, man.
Yeah. So you know, you see these things come in, and you're like, okay, doctor and Marine Corps, and they never go together unless they're like putting a needle in you or probing you or making you fix your shoulder or
Right.
That Dr. Jarhead is the big question. How did you get here?
Yeah. So, well, my mom and dad were missionaries, right? So I was brought up in a little town called Wagga Wagga, New South Wales in Australia.
Oh,
It's halfway
wow.
between Sydney and Melbourne, right? So it was about 30,000 people back then. And there was only 4 Americans, my mom and dad, my kid brother, and I. And, I was in high school and I was the fat kid and I was short. And Australians are great with nicknames because they nicknamed me Beach Ball because I was as wide as I was, round as tall. And I was like 5'3", 185. And I was bullied a lot. And being missionaries kid, you can't fight back, right? You're not allowed to fight back, So I was living my life in fear and anxiety. And of course, you turn to food for comfort. And then I became literally a bigger target for the bullies.
Yeah. There you go.
So I didn't want to live my life like that, but I was supposed to be. There were 6 kids, and the 4 older ones. My mom and dad had the older ones in their, when they first got married, and my younger brother and I were at the end of, their childbearing years. Like they were in their 40s when they were raising us. So, but I was supposed to be the one that goes in the ministry, right? So I was going to leave the mission field and go to Bible college, and I thought, man, I can't lead any. I'm a fat kid. I can't. I would just be a fat guy in the pulpit the rest of my life, not and just being a. I just can't do it. So I joined the Marine Corps. I enlisted out of high school. I came home to the States and enlisted. My mom and dad were not happy, and I get it. I'm a parent. I definitely wouldn't want my kids necessarily jumping into, the mix. But it's what I was supposed
What
to do.
time frame was this?
That was in 1985. So I'm gonna, so there wasn't really a bunch going on. I mean, we had like the Grenada thing, the barracks in Beirut, but then I get in. It's the end of the Reagan years, but it kicks off, right? So then it's like now we're doing counterterrorism in the Philippines. That's the first time. I'm like, it was like 1986. I've only been in the Marine Corps like a year, and we're supposed to be doing training in the Philippines, which it was. But we get on the Amtrak's and we're in the boat and we're going like, blah, blah, blah. And they hand out live rounds. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, well, the Red Army is attacking, the embassy and stuff. And I was like, oh my God,
wow.
So we're in it now. But it was, that was my first, experience. And then I went on, I did 5 deployments with the Marine Corps, right? And then so I did one to Honduras for counterterrorism. I was in the Republic of Panama thing with Noriega. That was, interesting. I also did Desert Storm, and and I did one, another Westpac. I did 2 Westpacs. So it was. I was in the infantry. I was a grunt, crayon eater, as they say, and jarhead. But I lost 50 pounds in boot camp. I got control of anxiety and fear, and took control of my body basically. And I thought I got control of my mind and emotions till I got married, and then I found out I didn't really have control of either of those 2 things.
Okay, so
to get the doctor, I forgot to even answer. So I left when I got out of the Marine Corps. I did go to Bible college, and then over the years, I got my master's in divinity, and then I finished my PhD in 2010. Really, because my dad he had his PhD too, and it's kind of what I wanted my dad to be proud of me, and I want to finish what I started, and so that's how I got. I was actually writing my dissertation in one of my deployments to Afghanistan. I had like a red light on in the up armored Bearcat, and I would write, and then on the midnight shift or whatever, and there's nothing going on, then I would go in and type on the laptop.
Yeah. So over in Afghanistan, I mean, your career spanned quite a long time. Your military career, and as I look at that, you're talking about dark I mean, that's what infantry does. They go in and they look for bad guys and try and make them not bad guys.
Right.
So
We either go in the column of we're a productive citizen, or the column of we manage you off the planet. It's like,
So, what as you look at the difference? I mean, when I got out of high school, Jimmy Carter was the president of the United States, and we'll just say it wasn't a very attractive thing to join the military. And then Reagan came in, and we had this resurgence. It sounds like that you kind of caught a little part of that, Ray. So, take us on that trip across all of these. Across all these decades where you had an opportunity to look at who was leading us and what difference did it make for our active duty personnel.
Yeah, so I only spent 6 years on active duty. I got out at the end, when the peace dividend happened. It was like right after the wall fell, was 91, and they were downsizing the infantry. And they're like, you could go into supply or motor T. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm a grunt. I blow up stuff and roll in the mud. I don't know what. So that's when I got out, and I did go to Bible college. But I was missing that brotherhood. And I'm not saying I'm an adrenaline junkie, but I was missing, the rush. And so I went into local law enforcement. And I was a sheriff's deputy in South Carolina. And I did that for a while. And then when my wife became pregnant with our first, she was like, "Baby, I want to be a stay-at-home mom." And I'm like, "Sugar, you're making 65% of our income," So I put in my federal applications to go to federal law enforcement, and it was all the ABC soup stuff. And one of the agencies that called me, asked me to the dance, was U.S. Capitol Police. And I thought it was Metropolitan. I'm like, I'm already, I don't want to, shag no one. They're like, no. They do the same thing the Secret Service does. They just do it for the House and the Senate. So I was like, okay. So I joined there. I spent a couple years in uniform, and then I got selected to become an agent. And I spent 3 years in dignitary protection, where my great claim to fame was I was the agent in charge of Nancy Pelosi's detail. And
all right. So you spent some time at Frisco.
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, I learned so much stuff. And then when I left there, then I went over to the State Department. I did 6 years at Capitol Police, and then I went to the State Department as a private military contractor, because I had this, I was like a unicorn, right? I had the infantry combat skills, but I was a State Department trained agent, because the Secret Service or Capitol Police had an agreement with Department of Diplomatic Security Service, Department of State. So anyway, I was trained a State Department trained agent, but I had the hard military skills. So they had this worldwide protective service, high threat diplomatic security come out. And that's when I did my 4 tours in Afghanistan. I came back, and they were like, we need you to, be a subject matter expert and create a curriculum. So I was taking SEALs, Marines, Rangers, and Special Forces guys that I needed their hard military skills, but it's a law enforcement mission. So I had to treat this.
You have to make them gentlemen.
Yeah. So you're right. You don't want an international incident everywhere we're going, right? So we're taking crayon eaters and knuckle draggers and squids and turning them into diplomatic, machines. So it was a combination of critical thinking and emotional intelligence, which I put together, which I called mental toughness, so that I'm processing my thoughts and emotions and getting control of them under pressure, not just rules of engagement, but it's a use of force kind of model. So, and then I did another couple deployments to like Jordan and Kosovo. And I'm getting into my mid 40, 45, 46. And I'm like, I don't want to keep slinging a gun when I'm in my 60s, man. You know what I mean? Like, get shot at, no plumbing, no air conditioning, all that good stuff. So I said, I could take this curriculum and I could, sell it to corporate and do pretty good. And that's what I did. I in 2013, I started the Mental Toughness Training Center and just started teaching this resilience, mental toughness, critical thinking piece to corporate.
Okay. So let's and I'm going to walk through this from my own mind. Marine Corps Infantry Combat.
Yeah.
And then we're going to roll into literally Capitol Police, you're a police officer, but you're law enforcement, LEO. And then you roll into a federal agent, and now a security consultant, if you will. You were the tiniest Blackwater.
Yes.
And then you say, man, I'm gonna take all that I've learned and I'm gonna roll this up in a ball and make it useful for some corporate suit in a Brooks Brothers IBM SWAT.
Yeah.
How does that work? How do you start that?
Well, the State Department helps you, because I took all the greatest parts of the warrior culture, and then I had to, mix it with diplomacy, right? So the State Department, Department of Defense, they have diametrically opposed missions, and I became the bridge guy between the two. That's why, as I said, I'm kind of a unicorn, right? Nice. And a lot of it is also my upbringing on the mission field, because it's cross cultural. Like I had to learn how to become an Australian, if I wanted to survive. Right. So,
Yeah.
um, so you have to learn this, and it's cross cultural. The cross cultural of, military and diplomatic, and then we're also cross culture, like between the U.S. and Afghanistan, or the U.S. and Iraq, or the U.S. and Jordan, and the U.S. and Kosovo. Right. So you're going to have to figure out what's the culture that I'm coming into. How do I bridge these gaps?
Uh-huh.
And it's not any harder than that. It's actually easier. So, and every company that I go into, whether it's organization, I mean, I've done sports teams too. I've worked with collegiate national championship teams and high school, state championship teams, all the way to, faith-based ministries to, Fortune 500 firms. But everyone's different. And I have to find out what their culture is and then bridge it. But the principles are the same. It's how do I package the principles so that the folks can receive it, right? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
It does make sense. I end up on a lot of stages, and the amount of time that you have to spend in front of the event is way, way more than you're ever going to spend on the stage. So
Right. I
I
liken it to
completely
cooking like
get it.
mom when she cooked Thanksgiving meal. Like she started
Yeah.
like 3 days early with making the
Yeah.
meal. And we plowed through all that stuff that was on the table that took her 3 days to make in like an hour max.
Yeah,
I mean, all
exactly.
the way to the end with the pumpkin pie. And then you're watching the football game,
There you
with your
go.
on the couch. And so she's
Yeah.
like, man, that was 3 days of work that was done in an hour. So it's kind of like
Demolished.
that. Yeah.
All right. So, you ended up. So I've, one of the things that comes to mind for me is they say that you're going to meet a Navy SEAL out of every 2 million people that you meet. And I've really been blessed to meet 6 Navy SEALs in this and other stuff. And one thing they all had in common? They loved infantry Marines. They actually loved infantry Marines. They're grateful for Marines, and they're like that. So what we do, they're the precursor for it, and they mop up after it. And so they love you guys. So there's a tip of the cap to infantry Marines. If you guys don't understand out in the audience how valuable the skill set that the self-acknowledged crayon image is, it's pretty amazing. So, so now you're going to go back to college, and you're going to get a couple of degrees. And then you're going to put those to use, and you're going to be on stage and write some books. So the first thing that I read about you is like, okay, so here's a Dr. Grunt, and he's going to write a book to help parents. I'm like, how does that make sense? Especially, and the title is Ground Zero Leadership, CEO of You and 7 Secrets of Resilience for Parents.
Yeah, so the CEO of You book came out, and I mean, that's my coaching manual for corporate. That's our flagship program. It's the mental toughness stuff that I started with the State Department, and that book is all my coaching. It's this coaching manual, right? So it's almost like I don't say a devotional, but you open it up and you'd be like, "That's the reading assignment for this week. Here's the critical thinking questions. Send your homework in, and we're going to get on the coaching call." Right? So. But that did really well. And I was doing a media tour for that book, and I ended up on Home and Family with the Hallmark Channel, right? So, and it's kind of a different, it's a slower pace. It's a 2-hour show. So I was actually, a lot of these times when you're on like Fox and Friends or the Today Show, it's a 3-minute, you're in, out, blah, 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 so, okay, got done, but these guys, it was like a 10-minute, 12-minute interview. It was very kickback. And I was there with the whole family. So the whole group of the entire cast was there. And of course, they have all these questions about mental toughness, but they're thinking about their kids. They're all, young parents, or, but the discussion is all about how do I apply these things for kids? And of course, I have 3. And they were like, you need to write all this stuff down for parents. I'm like, okay. And then the outpouring after the show, like all the comments of people writing me, we need that parenting book. I'm like, okay. I didn't want to write the parenting book until my kids were old enough that I had like success. I didn't want to be like the guy that's telling you how to parent and you don't have kids, or your kids are a train wreck or a dumpster fire. So in 2018, I went ahead and I wrote the book. My oldest was already in college. One was about to graduate, and one was starting high school, graduate high school. One was about to start high school. So I'm like, okay, they're all set. And I laid out in that book, and I'm really proud of that book more than anything else. It's like, it's longer, more narrative, but I mean, I went into everything of how I raised my kids from the beginning to the end, and it's all cited with neuroscience and biopsychology. It was like worse than my dissertation, like how much work I had to put into that. And then, and it's polished, it's good. We had a high end, like I don't know if it was Doubleday or Simon and Schuster editor that went through it, and I felt like I was in high school again. English class because she was just redlining everything, and I wanted to go crawl under the covers for like 2 days there. I was like, I feel sick
Do
to
it
my
again.
stomach.
Do it again.
Yeah,
Do it
but
again.
so and that
Do
book
it
went
again.
to that thing went to #1 on Amazon, because then of course I went Fox and Friends and back to Home and Family, and Yahoo picked it up, and and
Nice.
so anyway, that book was probably the pinnacle of my career, as far as the peak of when everything was great. But then right after that, this is where Inner Armor came from. The commandant of the Marine Corps has the chaplain of the Marine Corps call me and says, "Hey, look, man, all the stuff with PTSD rates and suicide, we're not moving the needle with drugs, not with therapy, not with counseling. Is there something you could do for the spiritual fitness of the warfighter?" I'm like, "I got you, man." So we created Inner Armor, and it's a workout of the day, right? So I've got 18 to 35-year-old Marines that are like going to the field. They're not going to sit down for a suicide awareness class or prevention class. That's in and out there, So this resilience, this mental toughness, I created it like a physical workout, just like they would do PT, like 10 push-ups. So I'm going to do this little mental, because we're creating Hebbian loops, right? Hebbian means the neurons that fire together to wire together. So we're creating this neurological loops by just, every day, and we habit stack it. So that's what I created. And then again, here's another, I get the, the Marine Corps use it. Now I'm like, this could go out to everybody, So that's when we released the book this year for Inner Armor, and the app is for everybody, is about to come out, because the first app for the Marine Corps is the tech wasn't there, but now we have AI and all this. I mean, you don't even have to code anymore. And so it's cost effective for me to get another app out for everybody, which hopefully will be out in the next 30 to 60 days. We're getting close. So
right on. So as an author myself, I love subtitles because subtitles tell you what the book is really about. The title is the shock and awe, and the subtitle tells you more about. And this is Perpetual Resilience. Where did that come from?
So a lot of people think resilience is like we bounce back after something bad happened, right? That's what kind of the common, well, man, that's reactive. And I don't want to wait till something bad happened to see if I got it or not, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to build these responses in, because this is what we found out in the Marine Corps. You never rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training. You fall to your default. Whatever you've rehearsed is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So if you're always screaming in traffic and you rehearse that enough times, the brain is super awesome at becoming effective and fast. So that loop is going to fire off. So it's like whether you feel like screaming or not, you're going to be screaming in traffic because you already created that loop, right? So, right. So perpetual resilience is I'm going to create these loops and already have the resilience as a default. So I'm just resetting. I don't get knocked down. I'm just going to reset my loop and keep going. Reset my loop. It's almost like the power goes out and I just turn my computer back on. So that's why I call it perpetual resilience, because that way it's who you are. It's not like a thing I have to do after I get in over my head, or I got knocked down.
Yeah. So when you unwrap that and you talk about inner armor, because that really speaks to the warrior, really speaks to the soldier, it should speak to everybody. Body armor protects your vitals, and Kevlar protects your noggin. So now you've got this armor on, and now you're talking about inner armor.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I'm protecting my noggin and I'm protecting my vitals. So it's about emotional sovereignty. People are like, what's that? It's like, so whose emotions are they? They're yours. Yeah. They should not be running the boardroom. You should use emotions as fuel to do the hard thing, but we should not be making decisions with emotions. So that means I feel my feelings. I'm not discounting. They're very important, but I don't make decisions. I don't steer with that. So I need to steer with logic. I need to steer with my mind right. So then here's the next question is, in part of Inner Armor is, do you have a thought process, or is it just a jungle up there? How do you think your thoughts? So I started thinking of thinking like a physical skill, like in marksmanship. There's body position and stance and sight alignment and sight picture for this, for corporate, I call it the golf swing of thinking, so I don't get called into HR. Right. So it's like, there's, body stance
and legal.
Right. And legal, right. How you hold the grip and stance and how but so you're thinking about your thoughts in this physical process. And that's what I did is I took critical thinking, and it's the Socratic method, but Socrates, right? He had 9 steps, which is great for an academic debate, but that'll get you killed in a firefight. I'm like, I got time to go through 9 steps. You know what I'm saying, Jim? Like 9 steps. Who's got time for that? So I just took the first 4 that would get me 90 to 95% of the way there, and really it's two steps. I call it thinking like crap. CRAP, so you can't forget it, right? So clarity, relevance, accuracy, and precision. And I go through, every thought goes through that process. And when you do that, that's putting your inner armor on. So now I'm controlling my thoughts. And when I control my thoughts, I'm controlling my emotions and my biology, because biopsychology, how do the body, mind, and emotions work together? We know when the brain, when you perceive something, the brain fires off the neurotransmitters and calls up a hormonal response. And then the hormones will flood your blood system and to sustain your response for like 20 minutes. So that hormone dump happens based on how you view what you just saw. So when we train, and this is how you don't like freeze in a firefight, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. We got to turn, because when that comes on, that fight, flight, or freeze, when the amygdala takes over, my prefrontal cortex shuts down, which is the genius part of that's how we make good decisions. So I got to turn that back on, right? And so that's what we're doing is and I want to do this in a way, when I was designing for the Marine Corps, it's almost like they don't even know I'm doing it to them. You know what I mean? I'm almost tricking them into being mentally tough, because you just do these drills, and eventually you'll begin to start thinking like that.
There's a sir, yes, sir component to that as well.
Right. So that's why
you don't have a choice.
Right. I mean, it's the good part of the warrior culture. They did brainwash us in Marine Corps boot camp, but I want to, we want to wash our brain in a good way. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So and I wanted to put these things back in them without messing with the warrior mindset, because a Marine has to, they keep you angry all the time. You're a war fighter. You're there to blow up stuff and destroy things. We don't want to tinker with that. But what I want to do is, when you're out of the combat zone, stop being angry so that you can have a wife and kids and live in society, which they don't teach that. They don't teach to come off it's always red line, red line, red line. Well, we need to red line when we're supposed to red line. And then we bring, so this is what I was teaching SEALs, Marines, Rangers for at the State Department. We can't be red lined all the time, man.
Yeah.
Right. We have to get there, and then we have to get off the engine. Otherwise you'll blow the engine up. It's just like a muscle car, one of those, you can't red line it all the time. The engine will blow up,
So, let's walk that over into the business category. There's a lot of business people that listen to this podcast, and my wife is going to just chastise me for this, but break down crap for us.
Crap.
Clarity.
So this is business is huge, because you could take this in the office and it works great in the office. Well, the golf swing of thinking, but thinking like crap so you don't forget it, right? Clarity is, what's my target, right? So for the golfer, anybody plays golf, the target is the hole. That's my target. It's clearly defined.
Yeah.
But when you're on the tee box, you don't say, what's the target? And then you're like, well, see that tree over there? That's not it.
Yeah.
See that hill over there? That's not it. That's target elimination. But most people, CEOs, leaders, they tell me what they don't want, but they do not have the ability, because they have not trained themselves, to say what they do want. So I'll say,
looking at the sand trap.
Yeah, but that's the next thing. Relevance is the next thing. Are the sand traps relevant?
Oh, okay.
They're not relevant. Neither is the water obstacle. But if you say don't hit it in the water, where's the ball going?
In the water.
Kabloosh, because that's how the brain works. So
Guaranteed.
whatever you're thinking, that's the new target. So clarity is exactly my clearly defined target is the whole. Anything not relevant, sand traps, water obstacles, whatever's not relevant to me hitting the target comes off the board. So here's the questions that we would ask in the boardroom. What's the agenda here? What are we trying to accomplish? Right? So say we have a meeting. We're in a meeting. What's the agenda? So have you ever been in a meeting that got off the agenda into a sand trap for like 2 hours? Right? 2 hours of our life we can't get back. So let's just be like, hey, we're in a sand trap. Let's get back on target. Right? So that's a very easy way to manage yourself back off. But you have to have an agenda first. If you don't know what your target is, how do you know the sand trap could be the target? You don't know. Right? So you have to get very clear on what the target is. And then, is this helping me or hurting me hit my target? It's a binary choice. The whole, is sand traps helping me or hurting me get to the target? Hurting, off the board. Water obstacle, helping me or hurt, off. The fairway, helping me. That's part of it. Okay, good. Let's keep that. All right, are you following that? Right. So
I am. And then that's beautiful.
Yeah. So then the accuracy and the precision. So that's like the first two steps. Then accuracy and precision. This is kind of my law enforcement coming out. But do you remember that old show Dragnet with Joe Friday or whatever?
Oh yeah.
He would say just the facts.
Sergeant Friday.
Yeah, Sergeant Friday. Just the facts, ma'am. So a critical thinker knows that facts and truth are two different things. That in a courtroom, evidence that is entered in are facts, neutral pieces of information, but the witnesses swear to tell the truth. And we know that the witnesses, man, they're just not reliable, because two witnesses would be like, he's wearing a red shirt. No, he's wearing a blue shirt. And then we found out he was wearing a gray shirt. They're not lying. They're telling the truth. They're literally not lying, but they perceive things differently, right? So the critical thinker sees, okay, they're speaking in truths. I need to move that truth into the fact column. So let's just take it to the office. You have an employee, you're the boss, and you feel disrespected. You disrespected me. Well, that's the truth. So as an employee, I'm going to say, well, okay, boss, I get it. You feel disrespected. Could you tell me what the facts of my behavior were that made you come to that conclusion? Well, you rolled your eyes, you put your hands on your hip, right? So now those are facts that I rolled my eyes, I put my hands on my hips. But whether you deemed that as disrespectful, I could have just been like, I was just in awe. I'm like, I'm amazed, or like, holy cow, I can't believe that's right. But you took it as
an unconscious response,
right? So see what I'm saying? So this is what we got to do: is move it from the truth column to the fact column. So
I
here's
love
another
this
one.
Facts over feelings thing, man. It's
every
just
time,
beautiful.
right? Yeah. So, and this is in our communication too. You ever get that email? It says, I need this ASAP. Yeah. But is ASAP a fact or a truth? Well, it's a truth, because as soon as I could possibly get to it, it's like 2055 before retirement, because I got other things I got to do. Right. So hey, when exactly do you need this by? I need it by Friday. Okay. That's a fact. Now the P is precision. Once I moved a truth into the fact column, Friday is a fact, but that's a giant block of time. When on Friday? Close a business? Well, that's another truth. No, I need it by 5 p.m. Eastern time, because you and I think we're on different time zones, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we have to put in, I think you're on Mountain Time, or I'm on Eastern time, 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So that's how, that's how precise we get. And when you do those things, when you critically think and then use that crap formula, nothing falls through the cracks. There's not a communication mishap. People aren't making assumptions. We've drilled it down. So it's very important in business, because we'll go in, and this probably happens to you too. They'll be like, we have a communication problem. You don't have a communication problem. You have a thinking problem.
For sure. And it's really endemic across all businesses. It's not big or small or corporate or entrepreneurial. These are problems and issues that can be solved.
Yeah, they're human problems. Yeah, if you're a human,
there you go.
If you're a human, you got this problem. Like, because it's not taught in school. You can't even teach it. You can't teach that critical thinking. You have to train it. People are like, what do you mean? So, Jim, you got kids. I got kids. You remember when they were first learning to drive the car?
Yeah.
And they maybe, like in some states, you have to just go to a driver's ed class before you can get behind the wheel. So that's what critical thinking is. Like, you went to a driver's ed class, you heard about crap. Now you're a licensed driver. No, you have to practice behind the wheel, right? It's how many hours you have to do before you take your test. You have to train driving the car. You can't teach driving the car. You could teach, this is the wheel, that's the brake, that's the turn signal, that's the gas. You could teach that all day long, but they're not trained to drive the car. Critical thinking is the same way. We don't even teach it in school, but if you did teach it, you still have to train it and do live reps. And so I would love to see this happen in like high schools, for sure. It could even happen in middle school. I mean, my kids, they don't know how to think any other way, because they came out of the womb with this thought process. And if you think like crap, you're going to force everybody around you to think like crap, because of the questions you ask. Like, what are we trying to accomplish here today? What is it that we're trying to do? Right.
Drilling down deeper, probing questions, right?
Yes, every time. We're going to get to the bottom of it. Like, why are we doing that? And then, is this helping us or hurting us do that? It could even be down at like Christmas dinner, with the family. Why are we here? So we can have fun. So we enjoy each other. So is yelling, or, is nitpicking about each other's crazy, is that helping us or hurting us have fun? Or talking politics, is that helping us or hurting us have fun? Talking, sports, Alabama and Auburn, Clemson and Carolina.
Wow, that's a fist fight, man.
Right. Is that helping us or hurting us enjoy family time? Right. See what I'm saying? See how easy it is to apply this in any area.
I hear you. So, you have spent a lot of time on the stage, and there's always cool stories that go along with that. People think that if you're a speaker, you get up and for 38, 48, whatever minutes, you give this amazing motivational speech and you get down and walk away. But there's people that come to you after and they're like, hey, this impacted me in such a way because. You got some cool stories about people that have come to you after.
Yeah, well, just this a week and a half ago, man, I got someone who was in our thing. I mean, I don't even remember when they said what it was like literally like 2015 or something.
Well,
I don't remember the event. I mean, you do these events, you don't even remember. That
yeah,
year I did like 200 events. I don't remember where. I
yeah,
don't know what time zone I was, what city was in. You look at my like social media posts. I'm like, I don't know where. I don't know. I just get up and point and shoot. Right. But anyway, they texted me and they were like, "Hey, I'm going through a rough time right now, and I'm trying to think of my crap, and
mm,
I just don't even know what I want in life at this next stage. Can you help me?" I'm like, absolutely, so, and then I just, fired off some that they would remember, but they remembered. This is like 10 years now, right? 2015.
yeah,
I mean, just one touch. That's why I say
that's
it the way I
awesome.
say it. It might be offensive to some audiences, but I'm trying to make it stick like an earworm, like,
Yeah,
the Flintstones song or Gilligan's Island or
exactly.
something you could never get out of your head. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? But
can't get away from it,
yeah.
right? Yeah. So, have you ever had one of those soldiers come up to you and say, "Hey, man, what you've done has really helped change my life"? Is that
Yeah, I got a
that's
couple, and I'll
got to
tell
be
you.
part of your repertoire?
Yeah, no, I mean, there was guys, there was one guy, we were in Desert Storm together. He was like a Lance Corporal, and we lost touch. I don't know, but I mean, he ended up connecting. I don't know, a few years ago on LinkedIn, and he was like, that's the dude you were so, and I was his squad leader, right? So I'm a sergeant, so I know a little bit of something, but I didn't know that
Yeah,
much. But the stuff that I put into him, anyway, he went from like being you have to go to the Marine Corps, go to jail kind of thing, to where he was like
yeah.
coaching defensive backs at University of West Virginia or something for the
Oh,
football
cool.
team after the. So I do get some of those, um, and then when I hear them, I mean, that's what makes it all worth it, right? So people,
Mm,
there's and I don't want to get too scriptural, but there's a line in Third John where the Apostle
mhm.
John says, "My greatest joy is that my students do the truth. I see they're walking in truth.
Yeah,
They're my children,
yeah,
and that is my greatest joy, is that you made an impact on somebody and it worked for them."
yeah,
And I don't. You don't hear a lot of times. You don't even know what the impact was. You're just on to the next thing, right? Like, I won't even remember this podcast probably like in 6 months from now, because I'll have 15, and you won't remember me being on. But there may be
yeah,
something that comes up to think of, thinking like crap, because you'll be on to the next guest, and after we put this out on social media, it'll be out there. But we're on to the next thing.
yeah.
But hopefully there's something that sticks and that you could use, anything that you could use to help your life. I think that's awesome. That's why I do what I do. Do you know what I mean?
I do, and part of the evergreen part of what we do is that especially either on the podcast or on the stage, when we bring people in, when we talk about that champion, it's seldom that dopamine moment that the Super Bowl win created this 20 seconds of pure bliss. It's actually the teammates and the grind and the drive and the thing that got you to where you go. And the people you impact along the way are the biggest part of the story. And that's the beautiful part of what we do is, and sometimes I call it performers, sometimes I get entertainers. So it doesn't matter. It's just the audience that you're serving. They come back to you and they're like, when people come back and say, "Man, what you said changed my life," it's just like, whoa. I
Yeah.
didn't know I could have that effect on people.
No.
It's kind of scary. A little bit
Right.
of a lot of responsibility. So,
And a lot of
so
times they take what you said seriously, or they'll read something out of your book, and I'm like, I don't remember writing that. And they're like, it's right here on page whatever. Or they know my stories better than I do. I have one guy
yeah,
I was in Afghanistan with. He could tell my stories better than me, because he's listening to like the podcast all the time in his ear,
yeah,
when he's working. And I'm like, I don't remember telling that story, And I'm like,
yeah,
how do you know my stuff better than me? It's because they dive in, and I call it the Kool-Aid drinkers, right? Because if you
yeah,
do this stuff, and I do it, I mean, I drink my own Kool-Aid, man. I mean, I don't preach anything I don't practice, Jim. You know what I mean? Like, if it
yeah,
doesn't work, and I test stuff all the time. If it doesn't, I tested all the stuff on my kids. They're the guinea pigs, right? It never
yeah.
went to corporate or anywhere else until I could see it worked with other human beings. And your kids are like the safe, because they're going to love me. You know what I mean? Like, that's safe in there. There's not
Yeah.
millions of dollars on the line, or, lives on the line when you're testing this stuff out in a non high stress environment.
Right on. So, as a mission kid, what leadership at MK missionary kid? Sorry. What leadership skills do you think that presented you with? Because that's a cool story, but it's pretty lonely in Australia or New Zealand when you're like the only kid there, and you got the four playmates in there. You're all your siblings or three playmates.
Yeah, no, it was hard. The first year was hard, the cultural
Mhm.
shock and stuff. There was other people, there was other Australians. There was the only Americans there, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in high school, and I'm going to school and I'm going to class, and there's other, I get, but it was hard, but this is what I think that's what it taught me. Like I said before, was like that cross cultural thing. Like from a young age, you're like, whatever your core beliefs are, you better vet them, because a lot of things that we think in this country in America that we just I've never vetted them. There's just what we, how Americans are. You go somewhere else in the world, you find out, wait, but because there'd be people here that you think that you're not rich. There's not a single person in this country that's not rich.
Yeah.
I mean, you go somewhere and you find out that most of the world is living on $1 to $2 per day for a family of 4.
Mm-hmm.
But we have no idea. You know what I mean? Like, so those are the kind of things that it really opens your eyes up as perspective. And how do you see the worldview? How do you see the human experience? And you find out that there's some things that are common across the board. Like, we all want our kids to do better than us. That's like innate as a human. Humans want their offspring to do better than them. Right. Yeah. So I think that the leadership part there is that you have to be able to see something from someone else's perspective. And when you're working with a team, and this is, again, this is like what the Marine Corps teaches us, it's personal power in your leadership and not, positional power in your leadership. Exactly. And I think that's massive.
What role does emotional fitness play in that? Because you bring that up.
Yeah. I think that's the key. I mean, we'd be like, oh, Gunny Jekyll and Gunny Hyde, did he have a fight with his wife last night? Which Gunny's coming to work this morning? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they're just, you don't know where somebody's going to be. And when I work with CEOs, that's one of the big things. It's not even about their hard skills or how good somebody is or how smart somebody is how predictable somebody is why a CEO will keep their inner circle the way they are. They're predictable. They're, and that even keel, we got to get off the roller coaster of high highs and low lows. I mean, if we do great, I'm like, man, that was awesome. They're like, well, you don't look like that. You're excited. I'm like, well, I'm doing backflips on the inside. And then you get hammered and, it's devastating. You're like, wow, that was rough. They're like, well, you don't look like, I'm like, look, man, I'm crying and moaning on the inside. Right. So, but when you feel your feelings, but I'm not going to let them run the show. You know what I mean? So I think that's in leadership, especially in a crisis, we follow the person that's in control of themselves. Now, it doesn't matter what rank you are. You could be the lowest non-paid intern. If it's a crazy mass casualty event or a terrorist event, they're calm and they're like, let's go to the fire exit. They're going to follow. Everyone follows that person because they're in control of themselves.
Leadership has nothing to do with living. Yeah. Crazy. So, folks, I want you to go get a copy of Inner Armor, Perpetual Resilience. And, where can people get a hold of you, Andrew? Where can we reach out on the web and find Andrew Wittman, Dr. Grunt, Andrew Wittman?
Grunt. I like it. No one ever called me that before, Jim. I might have done. I have Dr. Grunt. Good, not man. That kind of doctor.
I hope you adopt it.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. You get my website is getwarriortough.com/podcast is where everybody could, that was your listeners. There's some stuff up there for them. Getwarriortough.com/podcast. But I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram at Warrior Tough PhD. You find me on the Twitters, or I think it's X now, and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. I mean, you could just Google me. There's no fence around me. And I always say that I still have an old-fashioned phone number. You can actually call the office still, if that's right. So
nice.
There's a lot of ways to get in touch with me, man.
Yeah. All right. So I have a PhD as well. It's called a post-hole digger. I have a couple of them, but congratulations, Dr. Wittman. You've lived a big life. When we close out the show, we always talk to people about one of the champions that affected your life in such a significant way that you just got to give them props or say thank you to him right now in front of the whole world.
Yeah, my leadership mentor was Lieutenant Colonel John Falchetti. I was a young corporal. He was a captain in the Marine Corps when we met each other. He entrusted me with a lot of stuff and saw potential in me. But he did not just me. He did it with all of his NCOs and his young officers. We have we still get together as a reunion. How many was it? 34, 35 years later that we all still, and we all pay homage to John Falchetti. He's our leadership guru. And this is one of the things, I mean, I talk about ride hard, shoot straight, never lie, which was his philosophy, but he also said this as we were learning and growing. He would say, look, the question is not, do your Marines love you as a leader? The question is, do you love your Marines? Because if you love your Marines, then it doesn't even matter. they will
Yeah.
love you, but it doesn't
Yeah.
matter whether they love you or hate you. If you don't love them, that other question is irrelevant. So I love Lieutenant Colonel John Falchetti. He's one of my, I said, leadership mentor. Like, you know, we call him the Sea Daddy, or my, you know, my rabbi, whatever, you know, my mentor.
There you go.
You know, I always go, we're going to the leadership, and everything I teach, like from the Leadership Academy of John Falchetti.
All right. Well, Lieutenant Colonel John Falchetti, thank you for investing in Andrew Wittman. And sir, thank you for coming on the podcast, The Grampian. We loved having you as part of our show, and we'd welcome you back anytime. But until next time, you keep dreaming those Grampian-sized dreams and do some of them. This is Jim, and I out.
When you get an opportunity, subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcast.